Welcome to Nevertheless Podcast with Bidemi Mark-Mordi, a show dedicated to organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Today, you would learn how to discover your essence and live more powerfully.
Hi, welcome to the Nevertheless Show, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. This is episode 2 in this series, Durable Learning, and what it is and how to deploy it in our everyday life. Last week, in the first episode, we defined what durable learning looked like, and we said that durability learning is critical for quick adaptability and stability as life continues to change. So we said that durable learning is a principle that espouses that we must find ourselves or learn skills that are relevant regardless of our circumstances, that even when our circumstances change, these skills are relevant. I gave you the example of Daniel and how it was what he had made up his mind not to do that made him stand out in Babylon. And I gave the example of Joseph, that Joseph was a success not because of the new things he learned along the way, but the things that had already been part of him before he started his journey to greatness. And we saw that even though sometimes the durable things we deploy in our learning and for our living are things that we have to expand as we grow, the core of them are still the same. I still have in the studio with me Ijoma. And Ijoma, what would you like to learn this time?
The last time you said something about constantly upgrading. And I thought of, okay, so it means you also mentioned reflecting and asking certain questions. And now, since we're looking at how to deploy them, I've thought of, okay, in this area, I want to really learn how to deploy durable learning in specific areas.
I think that before we get into how to deploy, we have to first know what the benefits are. Because what I did was just present it to you. And yes, I highlighted people, in my opinion, who lived like that. But what are the main benefits of durable learning? This episode would focus on that, and the other part of it would be, yes, how do we deploy these benefits for everyday life? The first thing that I want us to know is that durable learning brings lasting benefits beyond money or beyond momentary knowledge. You know, the knowledge that you have just in a moment. I know I talked to you about, I gave the example of what you learned when you were in the US Army versus how you raise your children. And that's because there are things we learn in certain seasons of our lives that foster the resilience, adaptability, and wisdom that we need to navigate life's complexities in another season. So durable learning really, again, if I had to redefine it and give you another meaning, is the capacity to distill lessons from the processes we go through in life and deploy those lessons regardless of our season. Do you understand that? Yes. Because once it's a lesson, principles are not industry specific. Right. I said that at the outset. So if you open yourself to learning things in one season, they will be useful for you in another season. That's what durable learning is about. As believers, durable learning also ties us closer to God's truth because it determines the standard at which you live your life. There is no amount of money someone is going to pay me to commit adultery. I'm not going to commit adultery because of my husband. I'm not going to commit adultery because of God. Not committing adultery is not because, I'm afraid to hurt my husband. And we need to be truthful like that sometimes. But it will be because I know that with who I am in God, that's not how I should live. And because that's not how I should live, that's not how I want to live. Do you see it? Yes. So when it comes to durable living, this episode would explore 5 ways, or durable learning. It will explore 5 ways to harness durable learning benefits grounded in biblical examples. That's what I want to do. So number one, resilience in adversity. The Bible says that if you faint in the day of adversity, that your strength is small. It means that there is a strength you must have so that when adversity shows up, you are not flaky and you're not crashing out. So durable learning builds inner strength to withstand difficulties over time. If you look at the example of Job, you'll see that though he was tested, he maintained his faith. As a matter of fact, it was because God knew that Job had in himself a level of strength that others didn't have, that God pointed Job to the devil. He said, have you considered my servant Job? And when you see how Job transacted and stewarded that season of his life, you will know that what made him stand, and no matter what it, regardless of how bad his situation was not something that was in the atmosphere. It wasn't the encouragement his friends gave him. It wasn't even because his wife stood by him. It had to do with who he was on the inside. So when you think about that, Job said in Job chapter number 13, he said, even though he slay me, he said, though he slay me, yet I will hope in him. Another translation would say, yet I will trust in him. What was it that made Job find a place to be able to hold on to God, even though he knew that God was the one that had removed the hedge so that in a manner of speaking, the serpent could bite him? How do I apply this to my life? To cultivate durable faith and knowledge that sustains me through trials rather than fragile quick fixes. I need to come to the place where I am clear that life will be life, and that when adverse things happen around me, it is not proof that God has abandoned me. It is to show me that there is something on the inside that can help me cope and deal with and sustain me through the trials and the temptations and the things that I face. So that when you look at this benefit, you know that there is a capacity that you grow in that helps you to stand in the days of adversity. Now, what we typically do as believers is we say, God forbid, I will not. Amen to your prayer. But how's that working for you? How many times have you said, God forbid? And exactly what you thought you wouldn't do is what you ended up doing. So it's not to wish that those things will not happen. It's to, before that day comes, to determine how will I respond when anything that I wasn't expecting and I did not want happens to me. Because yes, you can say, oh, I would respond in a certain way, and then it doesn't get to happen. Praise God, it doesn't get to happen. But what if something happens? Will you be standing or will you give up? So that's one of the things that benefit number one of durable learning. Number two, it is that by durable learning, we gain wisdom for decision making. Wisdom for decision making. I have been in many situations. When I started, durable learning means that the mistake I made 10 years ago, I shouldn't make it now, because I distilled a lesson from that mistake. And now that I'm faced with a similar situation, I know how to do. Can you see it? So it's not so much about, I can predict what is going to happen. But it is that when I started out, I didn't know how to do with money. So I found myself constantly running out of money and constantly having to borrow money, for instance. After a while, I realized that that was not a sustainable way to live. So I decided to sit down and gain wisdom for the decisions I made about money. And that has changed my relationship with money. Because of that, I find that some of the money gaps that I had or used to have, I no longer have them. As someone who has learned. So there is wisdom that comes from for decision making that comes when you pay attention. What that means, for instance, is don't just experience it. Reflect on the experience and learn from it. Because then you'll be able to say to yourself, never again will this happen to me. And this is not going to happen because I now have this and this and this in place to deal with it if I smell it. That's what I'm asking us. Think about Solomon. Solomon sought wisdom above riches so that he could rule well. In that place, he was told that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. He said, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Solomon did so well. Then after a while, he began to despise wisdom. How did he end up? Not good. When we embrace lifelong learning in God, in God's word, for instance, you'll find that your journey in Him is sustained in a certain way throughout. Whether you have money or you don't have money, the Bible will say it in season and out of season. Whether the season is comfortable in this moment or it is not comfortable, because you have distilled durable lessons for your life over time, you find that you are not falling and getting up with it. Do you have a question?
So durable learning anchors you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you were talking about resilience, it brought to mind what you said, that durable learning is for future thinking people.
Yes.
Because that's the only way.
Yes. Because it is, I made a mistake. If you look at Joseph, the one time Joseph boasted, and he never boasted again. Why? It tells me that he was someone who learned from past experiences. There's nothing as terrible as people who don't learn from their past experience. And so you find them that they repeat the same pattern and cycle over and over and over and over. Their money is never enough. Their money is never enough. Why? Because they will not step back and learn about money. Because for you, for instance, you need to come to the place and say to yourself, there must be something about my relationship with money that is not right. That's why I always find myself in a hole. So rather than pursue how to make more money, you begin with distilling a framework for how you do with money. Because every time that someone has money issues, it's not always about a scarcity. It's about a relationship with money. Because if your earning is not a scarcity, it is a relationship problem. And until you fix that relationship with money problem, you would never really, or that person would never really be able to fix their money problem. Do you see it?
Yes.
So that's why it is important that we learn, that's why I say it's for future, looking people who don't want to remain at the same level all of their lives. They want to grow out of that level that they find themselves. They want to do things differently. The only way to get that done is to embrace durable learning. Number 3 benefits of durable learning is adaptability and growth. Durable learning sharpens the ability to adjust as life contexts shifts. If you did well as a single person, the chances are really high that you do well as a married person, regardless of the fact that there is another person within the equation. If you do well as a married person with your spouse alone, the chances are high that you will do well as a married person with children, regardless of the fact that you now have more people to think about. And it goes on and on like that. When someone has durable learning, for instance, they are able to adapt the messages of their lives regardless of the audience. I went somewhere to minister last week, Thursday, and the person that went with me, I was asking her feedback when we finished, and she said, you definitely read the room. Because that's what it means. It can be the same learning, but if I'm talking to 4 different audiences, I will purpose it differently. It's something I have learned over time. And part of that is that I had to pick up the skill of hearing what people don't say. Listening to the unsaid conversation, unspoken conversations that people have around the table. So durable learning opens you up. If you think about Paul, you think about how he adapted his message to different audiences. If he was speaking to the Jews, he knew what to say. If he was speaking to the Gentiles, he knew what to say. Sometimes he would say the same thing, and it will mean 2 different things to both the Jews and the Gentiles. And he was effective in what he was called to do. So he could say in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22, for instance, said, I have become all things to all people, so that by all means possible, I might save some. It means that anyone who does not embrace durable learning may never be able to be effective in their lives. Because if something shifts a little, they get confused. And I see that every day. Something just shifts in someone's everyday lives and they are confused for weeks because they're not able to transpose learning from one part of their life into another one. And the only reason why that is the case is because they are learning really narrow. If you learn to drive in Nigeria, you ought to sit down and say to yourself, what if I found myself somewhere where they drive on the other side of the road? What will I do? You incorporate that into your driving lessons from the beginning. And it's not that you find a car to drive on the other side of the road, because remember, with the nation where you're learning doesn't have that facility. But it is in opening your mind to be able to ask your instructor questions. So if I were driving in the UK, for instance, what am I supposed to do differently from what I'm doing now? That's what durable learning asks questions, would ask questions beyond the scope that is before them in the moment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what this means is that you have to take core convictions and maintain them while learning new methods and new perspectives. So depending on my mood, there are at least 6 ways I can cook jollof rice. Depending on my mood, and sometimes depending on who I'm feeding. 6 different ways of cooking the same kind of rice. I learned those 6 different ways from 6 different people. And it's just a tweak in something that makes one different from the other. But unless I was open to take the core is that jollof rice in my head has to taste a certain way and look a certain way. But I've now opened myself so I can cook it bourgeois form and I can cook it student form and it will still be tasty. The process may differ, but the point I'm making is when you are embracing durable learning and you want to be able to distill its benefits and deploy them, then you must maintain your core convictions, even when you are learning new methods and perspectives. So just because you now have a ton of money does not mean that when you what you learned about your relationship with money, when you didn't have a lot of money, is no longer useful. It is useful. You are the one that needs to open yourself up and say, this is how I'm going to run now. I've given you 3 benefits of durable learning. I gave you adaptability and growth. I gave you wisdom for decision making. And I gave you resilience in adversity. I'd like to take a break, but if you have a question or contribution, I'll take that first.
So when you talked about resilience, one of the things that came to my mind was, the difference between knowing about God and knowing God.
Yes.
That was one of the things that came to my head, because then in my relationship with him, he said, learning, it's not just about learning for now, but learning for sustainability. So if I'm faced with something, it is really what I know
about God,
about,
what I know, your
by
relationship,
yes, that helps carry me through, not what I've heard about him or what people say about him, but my own experience with him.
Even though your starting experience can be what people say about him, but you must increase that or expand that to a place where it is now covered by a personal relationship with him. We've been talking about durable learning, and this is episode 2 in the series. And this episode, we're looking at the benefits of durable learning and how to deploy them in everyday living. I told you that I have 5 benefits for us to look at. In this first segment, I have looked at 3 of those benefits: resilience in adversity, wisdom for decision making, and then adaptability and growth. When we come back, we'll look at the other 2 benefits, and then we'll draw conclusions for ourselves on how to do with durable learning. Please don't go away. God bless you.
Are you seeking to clarify your purpose and profit from it? Then get into Purpose University this year. It's a 10-week e-course for people of faith who seek to clarify their purpose and profit from it. The DNA of purpose has been put together to help you understand what purpose is about and also help you discover what your journey of purpose looks like. Register today at yourpurposeu.org, where Bidemi Mark-Mordi would hold your hands so you can discover your purpose and live a more powerful life. In a world filled with many fears and discouragement, life often becomes a burden. For those who know the way, life is just simple. Do not worry, you're not alone on this life's journey, as Bidemi Mark-Mordi shares powerful insights and principles from her everyday work and life experiences in her book, Nevertheless. Nevertheless is a book designed to encourage and equip you to face life with courage, hope, and determination. Get a copy of Nevertheless and other books written by Bidemi Mark-Mordi, like The Wisdom of the Seed, Honor, The Theology of Work, and so much more from a bookstore nearby, or call 080-905-63555, or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com to place your order. I guarantee you will make it. Nevertheless.
Welcome back to the Nevertheless show. My name is Bidemi Mark-Mordi. I still have in the studio with me Ijeoma Obi, and we've been looking at durable learning. I did say that durability learning is how we distill principles and values and systems that carry us through different seasons of life without having to find ourselves stuck or unable to move forward. In this episode, we started to look at the benefits of durable learning and how to deploy those benefits on a daily basis. Now, before we went on the break, I gave you 3 benefits and how to deploy them. We looked at adaptability, we looked at growth, we looked at wisdom for decision making, and we looked at resilience in the times of adversity. And I did say that in each one of those places, or each one of those experiences, there is something that durable learning brings to the table. It is stability. It is the capacity to superimpose something from a different season of our lives into the season we are in now. It is the capacity to distill a learning from a previous season and bring it here, and it becomes the pillar in the new season. To quickly move forward, our 4th benefit is that, remember that I told us in episode 1 that durable learning looks like collaboration, because you are clear that you don't know it all. So you are open to having other people who come in to help you move this thing forward that you are doing, to learn from their own learnings and draw lessons for your own gaps and vice versa. So the 4th benefit of durable learning is deeper relationships and collaboration. Deeper relationships and collaboration. I have just put together a course that I called, I've created a course that I'm about to open up, a 6-week course on building tribe equity. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, how do you forge those kinds of relationships? One of the ways is to make sure that the things you're learning are relevant to both of you. That's why it tends to forge deeper relationships, help forge deeper relationships and collaborations. Yesterday, someone sent me a message to say, oh, I noticed XYZ about you. Can I ask you a question? And this one was not rude and just jumped in and said, can I ask you a question about it? And I said yes. And in having that question, it turns out that it's something that she had also considered, that I have considered and have done. So what had happened was, in that conversation, I was able to put my learning and my lessons at her disposal, which means that because she's in the place of taking learning for what she wants to do in future, she now has the capacity to learn even to make even stronger decisions than I had. Because even though I also did a bit of questioning before I stepped into what I was doing, it's not as this detailed. I took the time to break it down for her, and I took the time to let her know. I took the time to tell her what everyone is saying, the pros and the cons that I have seen. So I have broadened her horizon, and she's able to now make a more informed decision based on that particular subject matter. So what happens is that when you submit to durable learning, it enhances your relationships. It makes them deeper, and it makes room for collaboration, because the need for durable learning opens your eyes to the need for not knowing everything. Remember, I talked about updating and upgrading. If you knew it all, you wouldn't need to update and upgrade. So for instance, for many years, I had facilitated and trained people on communication. Then in 2018, yes, I went for some training and I was taught communication in fact, I had never seen communication like that before. So I sat down, I took my notes and I learned it. Now, putting it on top of what I used to know, my understanding of communication is broadened. And so I'm now a bit more wiser. I'm now a bit more smarter. I'm now a bit more sensitive to others when it comes to the subject matter of communication. Because unless you take durable learning, you would not be able to effectively communicate.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, you won't have empathy. So it's durable learning that makes someone, I remember when God said to me, he said, before you can heal others, you have to grow in empathy. The only way I know to grow you in empathy is to have you go through situations of ill health. Then you will see that just because you've gone many years of never falling ill, the people who fall ill are not weak. By the time God processed me in that system and I came out of it, honestly, I'm now a lot more, not even a bit more. I have a lot more empathy when people fall ill. Because prior to that time, I'm not someone who falls ill. So I couldn't understand how someone was ill last month and they're ill this month, and like clockwork, they'll be ill next month. It did not make sense to me. Because I had not gone through that, it made me question their Christianity sometimes. But going through it and having to not just going through it, going to God to say, what are you trying to teach me? Opened my mind to the fact that why I wasn't falling ill every single month was because God's grace was covering me. It wasn't because I was a better believer. Do you see that? So when Jesus taught on love and forgiveness and humility, he taught on it so that he could build community. And that's what durable learning gets you to. If you have been struggling financially, when you eventually master your relationship with money and you are better, When you see someone else struggling, your first response is empathy, because you've been there before and you know it's not a good feeling. So number 4, it is that it will deepen our relationships and help us forge greater meaningful collaboration. If you look at John 13:35, the Bible says, by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples. You need to ask yourself, what is the goal for my life? Because when you understand the goal for your life, you would open up to learning these things. Because they will let you know without a shadow of doubt that this life that you are in is not the life that you should be living in the moment. Does that make sense? Yes. And, in applying it daily, the way I see it is you must prioritize durable relational skills alongside knowledge to build God-honoring communities if you want collaboration. What does that mean? It's a lot of English, right? But durable relational skills would stem from forgiveness, will stem from making excuses for the other party, will stem from not engaging them when you know that they are not at their best. All of those things will make room for your relationship to be a bit more savvy, a bit more fluid, because you are not poking pins at every single balloon that comes up. Some of them you don't even acknowledge them because you make room for the weaknesses that are in the other person's life or the other person's weaknesses. So you must engage, prioritize, and that means, again, you define properly. In this situation, what do I want to gain? Do I want to be right, or I want to remain in a relationship with this person? If you want to be right, how you'd respond is different. If you want a relationship that endures, your response will be different as well. Do you see that? So that's point number 4. Do you have a question or benefit number 4?
So from this, what I'm hearing is that through durable learning, I can embody the fruit of the Spirit.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Because you remember that Jesus said, bear fruit and your fruit would abide.
Yes.
That speaks to durability.
Yes.
It speaks to sustainability. So do not be a flash in the pan Christian. This moment you can give, the next moment you are cursing people out because it's inconvenient to give. Because if you master giving, you become a giver. It becomes sustainable and durable for you, regardless of the sacrifices that you may need to make. Benefit number 5, and the last one for this episode. Durable learning helps us to dredge lasting impact and legacy. The thing about legacy in leadership is that very few people arrive there. A lot of us start, but very few of us arrive at legacy. And the reason why many of us don't arrive at legacy is because legacy is beyond knowing the thing. Legacy is about who you are and who you have impacted. That takes a character formation at a level that most people don't have. So when you find yourself in this place where I'm talking about benefit number 5, you will be someone who has your teaching has enabled other generations, and you have mentored other generations. So that when you get to the place of legacy, it's not about what you do now. It's about what others are willing to do because you ask them to do it. Do you see it? Okay. And we only follow people to that level when, no matter what it is that is wrong in their lives, they have the capacity to be durable. Do you understand it? If they say, I'm a man of one wife, 30 years down the line, you've known them, they're husbands of one wife. It's what happens at the end of your life. Are you looking for will you be asking how much is in my bank account? Or how do the people that I'm leaving behind, what are they saying about me? That's legacy. That's impact. If you think about Moses, he invested decades of his life teaching God's law and leading the people of Israel. At his end, do you know what Moses told them? He said to them, he said, I've done all of these things. If I have offended. Then if you go to the case of Samuel actually challenged them. He said, if I've taken something from you that I ought not to take, say it now. I don't want to be dead. And then that's when you say, Samuel did this. And right now, say it so that I can restore or restitute before I die. That's legacy. It's beyond what did I not do or what did I do. Or what am I doing? It's about who did I become in the process. So I guess what I'm saying is that durable learning is about not repetition, because repetition is different. It's part of it, but it's not. It's about your legacy, it's how you end up. If you had to write your epitaph, where will it end up? Will that epitaph hold true through your life? Or after some time, you find that it's not holding through. People say, he says he loves his country. See what he's done. He says he's the husband of one wife. At his grave side, a strange woman came with children. Do you see it? Yeah. But it is these things that you have become from your 20s that sustain you at those 70s and 80s and 90s. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any question?
So durable learning is also about character.
We've always said it over and over. So it's investing time in discipling others. It's investing time in putting your life at their disposal. There are things you learn in a classroom. You teach people in a classroom. I find that my best teaching is not in a classroom. It is in doing life. When people see me one-on-one daily, in the good times and in the bad times, and they can see how I respond. For me, that's how it works. So when you're thinking durable learning, the tools with which you are able to leave legacy, to disciple and mentor, and teach truths that are beyond the surface is your entire life, which suggests that durable learning is that your life is rounded and it is one seamless life. There are no parts to you that you have to hide under the table. As we close, I'd encourage you to reflect. Number one, consider which benefit of durable learning God is calling you to develop and deploy actively. Take a look at it, because in John Maxwell we call it the 5 levels of leadership, and level 5 is the legacy level. And when you teach that level, it's more about how are you going to end up? What are you doing with the people that are in your circle, more than about the formulas and the processes and the methodologies? Do you see that? So I want you to reflect, consider which of these benefits is lacking, and then begin to do the work to distill it. What I've done with this episode is to blend biblical insight and actionable steps for you to recognize that durable learning is not up in the air. It's something some of you are already doing, but because you're not doing it with an understanding of what you're doing, you're not intentional enough about how you land it. I am hoping that by the time you finish this series, you'll be able to say to yourself, this is how I have landed this, and this is how I hope to land the next benefit and the next benefit. When we come next week, we'll look at another episode of Nevertheless. That will be episode 3 of durable learning. Ijoma, what are you walking away with this time?
Intentionality.
Intentionality. Yes, every part of our lives takes that. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. If Jesus tarries, I'll be here next week, and we'll be looking at another episode in this series, Durable Learning for Life Structuring. Yes? Remember that I always say to you that if you discover your life purpose, you will live a powerful life. So it suggests that durable learning, purpose is part of durable learning, because when you learn it, then you know why you are here, and which means that you'll not be flaky and you'll not flounder around. I'll see you next week by the grace of God. God bless you, Ijoma.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Nevertheless. For more information and resources, call 080-90563-555 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimark.com. Don't forget, discovering your purpose helps you live more powerfully.